Hello, I'm Susan Regan, host for Connecticut Valley Views. At a recent Democratic headquarters open house in East Granby, I spoke with Elaine O'Brien, incumbent in the 61st House District. She shared her re-election campaign objectives going forward and current challenges impacting the constituents in her district.
It's a pleasure to be here this evening.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm going to ask you a pretty obvious question. Why are you running again, and why do you want to run again?
Well, I'm running again because I love being a state rep. I've really enjoyed the whole experience getting to represent the district. I've learned a lot of things about the three towns that I represent, as well as the rest of the state, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the contact with all the people that have called me or emailed me, the people that I've met. I've enjoyed the whole learning experience. There's a lot to learn about the state. When we live, I live in Suffield. Mm-hmm. Suffield and East Granby are very similar communities. They're rural, beautiful communities. And the whole state isn't like that. And so I've learned more about the whole state of Connecticut, and I just really enjoy it. It's really, I feel like I'm part of something bigger, and I like that.
Do you find that people, I'm sure you have an open door policy, and people, do you find people speaking openly to you, complimenting you, and at the same time challenging you about things that are going on?
Absolutely. People talk to me all the time about different issues, what they think, and I learn from people. I have to be honest. I've changed my opinions on a few things because of things that I've learned from others. One of the other things I've also learned is that very often people refer to one extreme example of something, and it's not the whole picture. And
it's their personal experience.
Or something they've heard.
Yes, third hand.
Correct. Okay. And often those third-hand stories become sort of urban myths, and they're not really reality. Mm-hmm. And that's been a learning experience for me because I have to be honest that I probably believed a lot of those urban myths in the past.
It's kind of hearsay, and
Correct.
Until you investigate it further, you don't really know the details. But that, in a way, the fact that people are willing to talk to you and bring things up gives you the opportunity to solve problems.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the biggest things you do as a freshman is constituent services. And there have been a number of people who have contacted me, either at my office at the Capitol or called me at home or sent me an email that I've been able to help in some way. And in a sense, it's too bad that people have to contact their state rep.
Yes.
But good for them that they know enough to. And sometimes they just need to be helped with the right direction. Maybe they're going down the wrong road with who they're dealing with, and they just need a little assistance with that. But that's really been very rewarding.
Yeah, it is rewarding, and I think also the relationship with the people, that relationship fosters more openness between you and them. The communication lines are there,
right?
And that's very important, because otherwise, if people feel as though you're not listening to them, then they won't come to you with the problems.
I listen to everybody. There's only one time I had a gentleman call me. This was during a very controversial issue. I don't remember which one it was, but he called me up, and I didn't agree with him. And I listened to his point of view, and I said, I'm sorry, I just don't agree with you. And he got really upset with me on the telephone and told me that his calling me, because he made the phone call, that I should listen to his point of view. And I understand that, and I'm happy to listen to it, but I didn't agree. And many others had called me on the same issue, and so just because someone calls doesn't mean that's the way I'm going to go. Right. But I do learn from almost everybody that gives me.
Well, one out of many is not bad.
No, that is the only time I can tell you that I've had that experience.
Yes.
I've had other people call me, and perhaps we didn't agree, but by the end of the conversation, he respected
you net it
my,
out to everybody walks away equally unhappy.
I wouldn't say that, but I at least listen to.
Yes.
I think that's really
important. You have an open ear.
Yeah.
Well, what do you consider some of the primary issues for your 61st district that you feel that dovetail into what Connecticut needs to achieve as well?
Well, I think one of the biggest issues in this district is maintaining the way of life that we have out here. We enjoy, people move out to East Granby or to Suffield because they enjoy that rural lifestyle,
Right.
the small town community, and that's something that we want to maintain.
Yes.
And then during the budget, the controversial budget that
Sure.
I voted for,
Yes.
one of the important things was to maintain aid to the towns, so that the towns didn't have to raise property taxes in order to make up for the loss of state aid. And that was actually a pretty difficult battle, but I know the importance of, the towns need to rely on what they're getting from the state, which is money that the taxpayers already paid
They're
in.
often unfunded mandates, yeah.
Now, I'm not talking so much about unfunded mandates as I am talking about town aid to roads, town aid to schools. In order to be able to do those things, the town needs to rely on state funding. So it was in other states that you've read about that have passed budgets and lowered the deficits.
Yes.
Did so by many of them by cutting municipal aid. In Connecticut, we didn't do that, and I thought that was a good thing. And I think it's important to these communities out here, my community,
Yes.
that we are able to maintain the quality of services in the town.
Right.
That's one of the things.
Well, this leads us to the economy. And the economy right now is, how do you see we're going to improve our ranking? Because currently out of 50 states, with California being the worst for businesses, Texas being the best for businesses and jobs, we rank 7th from the bottom. How do we see improving that for Connecticut?
Well, I think we're doing a lot of things to improve that. I think as controversial as it is, the governor's program to give tax incentives to companies that are willing to create jobs, encouraging companies to stay here or to grow here is important. And I'd like to think that we didn't have to do that, but that's the way the country is now. And other states are competing to try to hold on to these companies. I don't agree with every one of them that has happened, but in general, I'm agree with the philosophy that we have to keep. We've also done, Secretary of State's office has done a lot to streamline the regulations with the Small Business Express program is just one thing, but the new online portal to make it easier for companies, small companies to register. We've cut the business entity tax in half. I think that
I think a lot of the small entrepreneurial businesses are very happy with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that. But I mean, I think that we're doing things, going down the right road on that, and I think that will continue. The other thing too is, I think Connecticut is a great place to live. Right? It's I can't think of the word, but it's a beautiful state, and we're sandwiched.
Quality of life is good here.
It's terrific. I believe it's terrific. That's been my experience. I didn't grow up here in Connecticut, but we're in between Boston and New York, which are two great metropolitan cities. And we're being sandwiched in between that. We have a different, we don't have those attractions to keep young people here.
But we have the halo of both cities.
We do, we do. And in some ways, Connecticut has almost been a victim of its own success.
Yes.
Being such a nice place to live, the cost of living and buying homes here has always been high. It's not as high now, but I moved here from Pennsylvania in the mid-'80s, where I bought half the house for twice the money. And I was happy to. I loved it here. But we reached a point where the cost of housing and everything associated became so high that it wasn't, it's sort of like a circle. And I hope that we're able to get more young people to stay.
So those are parts of your initiatives. Well, there are so many subjects I'd like to talk to you about, but one of the things we want to do before we conclude is we want to give your website, because people can follow all of the things that you're doing, all the initiatives you're interested in, and all the things that you want to maintain going forward for all the good work that you've done. So I'm going to give that www.Elaine O'Brien, no little thing in the middle, 2012.com. Do I have it right?
Yeah, and it's O-B-R-I-E-N.
There we go, O-B-R-I-E-N. All right, well, I want to thank you so much for giving us the time. Have a wonderful, terrific rest of the evening, visiting with your constituents.
Thank you for taking the time to do this tonight.
We were delighted to do so.
respect-
Connecticut Valley View is delighted to be here.
Okay,
And we
thank
appreciate you giving us that time. Thank you.
Thank you.
For our viewers, you can see all of our programs on our website at www.ctvalleyviews.com and email me at ctvalleyviews@cox.net with your questions and comments.